This is the African American Library at Gregory School here on 1300 Cleveland Street. This library has at least 9 employees making a combined salary of almost $500,000. You can see from the parking lot there's no customers here. It's an archive. They don't have any customers normally, but they're going to be open today at 10 o'clock, Tuesdays, 10 o'clock to 6 p.m. This is where the employees park their cars. Right here, you can see some employee cars already here. 4 cars from employees. There's a loading dock right here in case they get any work in. It's an archive, it's not a regular library. And employees park their cars here. There's 5 cars. And there's the bike rack. And here's the side door. It's not open. Fire escape. Right here is the person that's going to come out. And this is some houses that they've taken right here. The city has taken these properties by eminent domain, and we can see there's 1, 2, 3 houses. We can see the houses that the Gregory Library took, City of Houston, and we can see that they did this back in early December 2009. They pushed 3 families out, and you can see the weeds are really high, and there's nobody living in these houses. And this is on the corner of Cushing and Victor. Cushing and Victor. 1204, 1206, 1208. And in the background we can see the Gregory Library.
That house included too?
Yeah, all 3 of them. All 3 of them.
Yeah, okay, let me get a shot of that house.
Okay. All 3 of them are occupied. Generating income, they just kick the people out and let them sit there.
And your title, you want to speak to?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay, never mind. Closer a little bit.
Okay. All right.
May I have your name and spell it for me?
I'm Linwood Johnson.
Say it again.
I am Linwood Johnson. Lenwood Johnson. I'm with the Freedman Neighborhood Association for this area, and we have been talking to the city.
Hold on. Having some audio problem. Having some problems with what?
We've been communicating with the city about that library and about that those houses for about 5 years. And we told them they couldn't tear them down because they were too historic. They were part of the contributing property for this National Historic District here in Freedmanstown. However, they just disregarded what we had to say because we wanted to keep the families there and have it there as a living museum to show how people lived during that era with the antique furniture and all that stuff that were in the building. And they refused to listen. They kicked the families out against our wishes, and now we don't know where half of those families are. We just know that one of them is basically homeless and stands from pillar to post. Those properties were generating income. The people were maintaining the ground, and they took the property to eminent domain, kicked them out, and people dispersed everywhere. It's a waste of money to take people's property like that, and when those families could have had a place to stay and wouldn't be homeless today. As a result of them being homeless, that's going to affect social issues in this neighborhood and in this city. You know, you have problem with crime and all that, with homeless children and all that kind of stuff. Because people are going to find a way to survive. If they have to steal, they're going to steal. So the city has created a vast problem by just not listening to people in the community when those units could have been occupied, being maintained, generating the income, because the city's in a budget crunch, and it was just a waste of our taxpayers' dollars.
So what do you want us to achieve by having this press conference?
Well, those families are homeless. The city needs to let those families come back into their home so they can maintain it, because there wasn't no weeds there when they there. They mowed the lawn and kept it, maintained the place. And so they need to bring those people back and let those people have a place to stay, because they need a place to stay. And the rents were over here that they were paying were rents that they could afford. Where they shipped them to, the rents tripled and doubled, and so they can't afford that.
From your own words, what the city wants to do with those houses?
They claim they want to preserve them, but, you know, preserve them with the people.
Thanks very much.
Okay, my name is Linwood Johnson, LENWOOD-JOHNSON. I'm with the Freedman Neighborhood Association, and we have been trying to deal with the city about these properties back here for the last 5 or 6 years, and they have refused to listen to us. As part of the library, they claimed they needed that property. They were going to make a parking lot, and we said no. Those are historic buildings, contributing properties to the National Listed Historic District in Freedman Town. You can't tear them down. All right, then they said they're going to preserve them. We said let's preserve them with the families that live there, and that can become a living museum of how people lived in the era when that library, that school glass building was built. And they wouldn't do that. They took the property to eminent domain from another owner and kicked the families out. And then basically some of these families that we've been able to track are homeless, and it's going to create other problems. They spent that money. Weeds are growing up. When the family stayed there, they're probably maintained nice and neatly. Weeds are growing up. There's a hazard as it stands. There's always a case of people breaking in and causing fires and all that stuff. Plus, once you make families homeless, then that adds social costs to the larger society, with crime, additional health care, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So,
and then with your fears, they're going to come in here with bulldozers or what?
well, they could, because they're getting a budgetary crunch, and if somebody they decide they want to sell a property, they can sell a property to a developer and put condos there, you know. But my main concern is that I see these kids that live there, they're supposed to be in high school, walking the streets now, and they could have been living in their home, still going to school. They were always, some of those I know were A students, and so I know those grades are spiraling down if they're still going to school. So they didn't have to kick those families out. We asked them not to kick those families out. They did it anyway. And so it's just a waste of our money. It's a burden. They placed a burden on society, and you can see the property and how it's being maintained.
What's the best thing that can happen now?
Well, they really need to go find those families and bring those families back, because where they moved the families to, they couldn't survive, because the rent was double and triple the rent they were paying here. This owner was permitting them to pay a rent that they could afford, but they can't afford the rent that they moved to, where they had to move to. And so the best thing they can do is bring those people back, let them, as those units, be living museums as representative of this era for this building, and everything would be fine.
Just 3 homes, or is more behind it?
No, it's just those three.
Just those three.
And
the city's idea was that's going to be part of the parking space for the library.
yeah, originally, and we said no, you can't tear them down. It's a National Listed Historic District. It's part of the contributing properties to that historic district.
How long have you been?